Right, this is an agroforestry, we're calling it an experiment, right? Because we don't know how it's going to work out. So what we've got here, every 23 metres, and the reason for 23 metres is because my irrigation is 20 metres wide, and it has to fit properly. So every 23 metres, a row of trees. Every 15 metres within that row, there's an apple tree of different types. In between each apple tree there's one oak tree, and then in between that is a mixture of other indigenous trees, and it's mostly things like birch, field maple, wild cherry, I can't remember all, and 2 or 3 other things.
Walnut?
No, walnut. We've only got, the only fruiting ones actually are the apple trees. We've got other fruiting trees over there which I planted 10 years ago. That shelter belt there I put in 10 years ago, it's a mixture of wild plum and cherry and other things. The idea of this really is just to see how manic I can end up becoming in terms of managing, you know, multiple diverse systems of farming. And what we're hoping is that we will increase our crop yield, and the basis of that is that we actually reduce the wind speed. Now, very few people realise just how much vegetables are damaged by wind. Even just gentle wind can really inhibit the growth of a lot of vegetable crops, and you can see that where close to hedges we often get a much higher yield. It's purely because of shelter from wind. So I've given up 20% of my land basically, so I'm hoping to get at least 20% better yield on the vegetables, right, in terms of reduced wind speed. I'm also hoping to get increased biodiversity in terms of insect activity, pollination activity, flora and fauna is going to be increased. So we're really, it's again about increasing biological diversity within the field. Underneath all of these strips we're doing a different treatment. One of them is going to be growing daffodils, which we're going to sell as a crop. One's going to be growing perennial flowers, which we also sell as a crop. These are plants which will tolerate neglect and grass basically. They're not going to be managed hardly at all. One is going to be doing nothing. One is going to be growing wood chips on its own. One is going to be just allowed to grow back naturally, so whatever's there will come up, seed back, and one's going to be rhubarb. So we've got a whole raft of different treatments, if you like, to each strip to see how it performs.
How wide is each strip?
Well, at the moment it's 2 metres. I mean, that's going to change in time as the trees get bigger.
That you're allowing for your crop, your 20%.
Well, it's actually 4 metres.
4 metres,
yeah. I mean, it's quite a lot. I mean, at the moment it's 2 metres, but by
will the trees have any influence beyond that, like roots, dehydration?
There will be, and what we will have to do, and I'm not sure how the apples are going to work, we will have to plough
root pruning
by root pruning, and we don't know what that's going to do to the apples. So there's a lot of, you know, we don't know about at the moment really. So it is a trial. It's going to be monitored by Elm Farm for 3 years. This was paid for by Woodland Trust. Good old Woodland Trust got heaps of money if you want trees. They're also going to do their own monitoring program. So it's really, you know, looking to see what's going to happen. And I wouldn't at the moment envision planting more than this. It is purely a 6-acre trial, but it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen. And
they do it in vineyards all over Europe.
Yeah.
Don't they? So and
it's not done much with vegetables at the moment. It's more agricultural than vineyard.
It is in Africa.
Yeah, I'm sure, where you've got more labour input. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to be, you know, an extra piece of labour needed to manage this.
I was wondering whether Colleen had any. Colleen, have you got any experience of agroforestry in France? Because there is some. They are quite. It's much more common in France than it is in England. I was wondering whether you've seen any.
I'm not really into it, really.
No. Okay.
No,
I thought perhaps.
Hear that much
No.
about it.
Right.
Have you thought about you know combining the wood chip compost with a? That's struck me as a thing you would.
Well, some of the trees will end up as wood chips.
Exactly, I mean, and then you haven't got to truck it around.
That is one of the other possibilities. I mean, there's also product from the trees themselves, and you know, Joe's made the point. So some of it's going to be wood chip compost, some of it's going to be materials for gardens, so pole. Some of these trees will be coppiced, some will be pollarded. There'll be a whole range of different management techniques going into these trees. It will be a very managed habitat. You know, it's not. We're not letting the farm go wild. It's going to be. I'm a real control freak. It's going to be highly managed, right? But we'll be using the products of that management for different things within the farm. So it's not just about biodiversity and improving yields. It's also about making our farm much more self-sufficient in terms of inputs from outside. So you know, there's a multi-facet reason for doing it. We don't know how it's going to work out. At the moment, you know, to me these trees are getting in the way of everything else, but I've got to get used to that. I mean, the field's small enough as it is. So we've actually got each of these plots is now very nearly, it's pretty much an acre each one, which if you're a farmer is ridiculously small. I mean, what I would have liked rows half a mile long. That would have been much better to manage, and it makes a lot more sense. We're very lucky that the field is facing north-south, because I couldn't, if we were to try and plant this across the field, if the field was sloping the other way, it would be impossible to use machinery. Because even on a slope like this, it's really difficult to keep row crops across the contours. Despite everything we'd like to think about keeping soil in place, it's very difficult to do that. So it's facing the right way, and the rows are long enough to make it worthwhile, 150 metres. But yeah, it remains to be seen what what the outcome would be in 10 years' time. I can all take them out if I don't like it.
Are the apples cider apples or eating apples?
No, they're all eating apples. There's one row of cooking apples, the rest are eating apples. They are to be sold, obviously, through our...
That's quite a vigorous root stock, is it?
They're on 26s. We're not going for large trees.
Right.
No, we're going for bush trees. There is a few on 25s, I think, some of the slower growing ones. 25 more vigorous than 26?
Very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah. There's a few of those, but mostly 26s, yeah.